I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Sebastian Planning and Zoning Commission, September 15th, 2022. My mic is on. Do you want me to go over that again? Okay. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you will all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Lucier?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Here.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Present.
Ms. Jordan? Here. Mr. Cristino?
Present.
Ms. Battles? Here. Ms. Kinchin?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Announcements for this evening. Mr. Alvarez is excused from tonight's meeting, and Ms. Jordan will be voting in his place. Okay, members, you have all had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from our previous meeting. The chair will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the minutes of the September 1st, 2022 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passed. Okay. Before I open the public hearings tonight, because we have two issues in front of us that may involve extended comments from the public and extended investigation here, I'd like to go over the rules of the meeting so that we're all on the same page at the same time. And in case I should, in a fit of passion, wander off, please somebody remind me. The parameters outlined within the city's resolution provide for a 5-minute time limit for those who wish to address the board. I believe, unless we have a lot of people on Zoom tonight, that we can probably get that in a reasonable amount of time, but I'd like you to know that we do watch the clock and you will each have not longer than 5 minutes to make your point. So if you've got a really long, lengthy point, you might want to do a little editing. We want to make sure that everybody who's here and has an opinion gets their opinion heard. The speakers, we can save some time if the speakers who wish to speak would form a line near the back and then come up so that we're not waiting for people to walk back and forth. It'll make things much more efficient. When you arrive at the lectern, clearly state your name, and if it's complicated, spell the last name, because our recorder needs to be able to put that accurately in the minutes. State where you live, not necessarily the house address, but the city. Be respectful of each other. Hold our responses. Please, all of us will hold our responses. No clapping, no outbursts are allowed. If you're part of a group, please pick one spokesperson to present your comments to the board, as opposed to 7 different people saying the same thing. All dialogue must go through the chair, both from the members of the audience and the members of the board. All dialogue goes through the chair. Speakers may ask questions, but all questions will be answered at the end of the public comment period by staff or the applicant, rather than expecting to get an answer right now. We will take note of any questions that you have, and all of the questions will be answered. Okay. Now we will open the first, we're going to open the local planning agency public hearing. If our attorney will read the first A for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a public hearing recommendation to City Council. This is a small-scale comprehensive plan future land use map amendment, man cave at Sebastian, applicant, proposed annexation. It reads an annexation to the comprehensive plan future land use map for property containing 4.56 acres located south and east of Spirit of Sebastian's PUD, west of Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of multiple family residential development. Existing county lines use designation is L2, open paren, low density residential, close paren, and the requested Sebastian land use is CG, open paren, general commercial, close paren.
Okay. Is our applicant here, present this evening? Yes, sir. Please come and address us.
Good evening, Madam Chair, and ladies and gentlemen of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Herb Green with CAD Jazz Engineering, 117 East Monument Avenue, Kissimmee, Florida. We're here before you this evening to request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to allow us to rezone from the current L2, which is county designation, into a CG designation for our desired use of going into man caves and self-storage facility on that site. We reviewed all the comparable level of service. Everything we're going to generate in terms of level of service is equivalent or less. Minimal impact to the city of Sebastian in terms of all the level of service available and our demand. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll answer them, but we're here to request approval.
Okay. Presentation from the staff, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Land Planning Agency Board, as we are sitting for this public hearing. As stated, this is a land use change request for a 4.56 acre parcel that has requested to be annexed into the city. So concurrently, the applicant would like to change the land use, and later on this evening, you will also be considering the rezoning of this property also. So currently, it lies within the county, and the land use is the L2, low-density residential. They are requesting it be changed to CG, the general commercial. In our analysis, which is presented in front of you, you will see that adjacent to the north of this property is CG, the land use. It is part of the back entrance of Spirit of Sebastian, for anybody's confusion or edification, that would be used for that community's services. So it is compatible to the north. To the west, we are looking at the PUDR of Spirit of Sebastian. To the east is the right-of-way for Old Dixie Highway and the FEC Railroad. And then to the south is County RMH6, which is Residential Mobile Home Park. Well, that's the zoning. The future land use is L2, I'm sorry. I've got them all together here. The staff feels that this is a compatible change in use due to the change that has occurred along Old Dixie. Old Dixie has always been more of an industrial area back there where 512 and Old Dixie lie. And there has been a little bit more either industrial or commercial uses as you come down Old Dixie. We feel that that is probably where the corridor is heading as far as its compatible uses with the city and its change in economic conditions. We all know Brightline is expanding their railroad in that area, and so the compatibility of low-density residential may not be appropriate for that area. So that is why we are supporting this change. As far as adequate public facilities, I realize that in the packet, the applicant had stated that they were going to be water and sewer. We have a letter that we have sent to them, and they have responded, and it is in your packet, that states that due to the development of Spirit of Sebastian, they have brought the sewer and the water down Old Dixie Highway, and the applicant is well aware that they will have to connect. So there is a response letter in your packet that acknowledges all of our comments, and it is part of your package. You'll recognize as this cover letter from August 9th, 2022. And it also talks about the environmental review that will be required once they come in for site plan development. They have included in their packet a conceptual plan of these storage units. It's just conceptual. This, under the zoning they are requesting, this is a conditional use, and they will have to meet, of course, certain additional criteria in order to put storage units on this site. And what is shown conceptually, I assure you, will be modified. And they have, again, acknowledged that in their letter. So don't be thrown by that conceptual design that they included. Again, that's just for, just to show you what they might do, okay? No, it is not, you are not approving that right now. All you are considering is the land use change. Do you feel that it is compatible in that area? And if you feel that it is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, then you would recommend approval to the city council. I'm not sure how much more I could add, but if you have any questions from your packet, I am here to answer.
Should we hold our questions till the end too?
If you would like, after public input.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to call for public input now. Is there anyone here who is here to speak in opposition to this proposal? Anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak in opposition to this proposal?
No one has raised their hand.
Thank you. Anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal?
Mr. Chairman, Commission, I'm Robert Votoff, Sebastian, Florida, representing the Spirit of Sebastian project. Mr. Mecklin could not be here this evening, so he asked me to come and speak for the project for him. We are absolutely in favor of this. We don't have a problem with the land use change being there by the Spirit project. We also think that it's appropriate because when we were in front of you, we have a certain area that was approved by the commission to have boat storage and RV storage and storage facility at the emergency entrance and ingress and egress there for Spirit of Sebastian. So we think it's appropriate. It butts up right to where we have our area approved. So we are absolutely in favor of this. The only thing, and I can't stay for the entire meeting, and I apologize, but we would like to see maybe some buffer restrictions a little larger than the 10-foot that they have proposed, and possibly doing a chain link fence instead of a white vinyl fence for security. We just think that that might be a little more appropriate with the two buffers with residential on either side, at least on those two sides of the project. So that would be my recommendations or concerns that we have as a project, but otherwise we think it's a very appropriate and we're behind it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the project? Staff, final summary?
I believe that you have all of the information in front of you that is required, but again, I am here to answer any of your questions.
Okay. I'm going to close the hearing, and we're going to deliberate among the staff. No, I'm sorry.
Close the public comment, not the hearing.
Cannot hear you.
Well, it says-
I'm sorry. I'm closing the public comment, not the hearing. Sorry. Okay. Members of the commission, do you have any questions, comments?
The only question I have, I know it's too early to ask, as to approximately how many storage units to be located on the property. My concern is that Old Dixie Highway, the southern section, is unimproved, and we are going to have a lot more train traffic there. Is there a safety concern that we should consider for that?
Well, we're not anticipating, if it's storage units, we're not anticipating too much traffic. However, we have anticipated that the road right-of-way will probably need to be widened, and so as part of the site development or annexation, we will be considering requiring a portion of the right-of-way to be provided in order for that road to be improved, much like Spirit of Sebastian was required to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Lucier? No?
I have no comments.
Questions or comments?
So my only question is, I see that you made reference to the wastewater being available. Just for confirmation, water and wastewater is available, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's all? That's all. No questions? Mr. Simmons? I have. Okay. I, of course, have questions. We're doing two things at the same time, recommending the annexation as well as the zoning change? No?
No, ma'am. This board does not do any type of annexation. Annexation is through the Florida statute, and this board is only considering future land use.
Thank you.
Later on this evening, you will be looking at the zoning, because the rezoning request has also come in. Much like the Fisher property that was several months ago, you all considered the land use and zoning change the same evening and made that recommendation to council. But council is the only body that considers annexations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
Based on staff's recommendation and the fact that this meets our land development changes from County L2 to City CG, I recommend approval to the City Council.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please. Mr. Simmons?
Ms. Battles?
Yes.
Mr. Lucier?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Kinchin?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
It is unanimous in favor. Motion passes.
Thank you. Second public hearing. If our attorney will read.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a public hearing recommendation to City Council. It's a large-scale comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, Graves Brothers Company, the applicant's proposed annexation. It reads, an An amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map for property consisting of 1,913.593 acres, more or less, located south of County Road 510, west of lands adjacent to 74th Avenue, north of 69th Street, and east of 90th Avenue. Current county future land use is AG1, open paren, agriculture 1, unit per 5 acres, close paren. Requested city land use is MU, open paren, mixed use, close paren.
Thank you. Staff presentation. I'm sorry, I skipped the applicant. Is the applicant here?
The applicant is here. I don't believe he has a presentation unless you'd like to.
No.
Okay, it's actually Mr. Joe Schulke with Schulke, Biddle, and Stoddard, the engineer. He is in the back if we have any questions for him later. Okay? I'm going to try to get this correctly. So I actually prepared a PowerPoint this evening, which you all have copies of, because I know how important this particular property is. Not any more important than all of the smaller annexations that have occurred in our community, because they are all important in building the sustainability of this city. But this piece of property is adding almost 20% more. And those of you that worked with me so closely on the comprehensive plan, envisioned, I believe, that in the future we would have some type of second city center, if you would, in order to alleviate some of the impacts of our main city. And that's why we came up with the mixed use concept and land use in our comprehensive plan. And I bring this forward to you at this point because that is what we're considering. I realize there's a big annexation on the horizon, but we are considering if this land use is compatible for this piece of property. So try to bear that in mind as we move forward. So for those of you on Zoom and may not know me, I'm Lisa Frazier. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Sebastian. I've been here 5 years come Saturday, whoop whoop. I have a master's degree from FIT in environmental planning. Yes, my passion is environmental. And I have been a nationally certified planner for over 25 years. You are in good hands with the staff that you have in this city. I had to say it. I want us to give due consideration, but most of this slideshow I pilfered from our workshops that we already had on this project, so a lot of it will be repeats for you. Am I doing the right button? No. That one, no. This one, no. This one, no. None of these buttons work? Kind of like when you're trying to do the TV at home and your husband gives you the one that doesn't work. Yeah. You got to turn on the button. There you go. Here we go. So Exhibit A, this was in your packet. This is from the applicant. This shows us the annexation reserve area that is part of our comprehensive plan. I know it looks very familiar to most of you. In the annexation reserve area, which was never codified here in the county, but these were areas designated for Fellsmere, Sebastian, Vero, give me some other municipalities in the county, and identified as areas that could be available for the growth of these different municipalities, again, never codified. However, the applicant is within that area, that general area, which extended south of 510 and to 69th Avenue, or Street, I apologize, and is adjacent to the City of Fellsmere line. This Exhibit B gives you a good location map of this property. As you see, it has been farmed and agricultural use for many, many, many years. I reviewed all of the title documents for this property. Many of the titles were land grants from the state of Florida to the Graves brothers. They have been here doing agriculture for many years. As you well know, they were the original land that the city of Sebastian has been grown on and built on, and that's why they desire to be a part of this city again today. There's very little natural environmental area on this property remaining except for the slough, which is in the northeast corner of the project. And if you recall, the last time they had come in, they had agreed to put it under a conservation land use. Unfortunately, that did not go through. This time, we're just doing mixed use. What else did I want to say about this? This particular property, when we are talking about future land use versus annexation, if you'll note, the entire property, the gross area of the property is 2,044.318 acres. That's the entire property that is being requested to be annexed into the city. However, the subject property that we are looking at tonight for the future land use change is only 1,913.593 acres. Why is that? Because that's the net land area. It does not include the right-of-ways. There's many right-of-ways that are crossing through this property as far as the Sebastian Improvement District. There's another, I think there's an R in there. Sebastian River Improvement District, I apologize, and the right-of-ways including 82nd Avenue and portions of 510. So the land use of these right-of-ways are not changing. We are only considering the 1,913 acres. That's the net acreage. So as we all know, the site is bisected in the north and south direction through its approximate center by 82nd Avenue. Now that right-of-way has been widened and purchased and preliminarily designed by DOT as a thoroughfare from 510 all the way south to 60. That's already been dedicated and widened, and they've already purchased all of the right-of-way along there. The subject property is currently vacant agricultural land in unincorporated Indian River County, contiguous to the existing corporate limits and boundaries of the city of Sebastian. They have requested a mixed-use future land use designation in order to achieve consistency with the city's future land use element of the adopted Comprehensive Plan 2040. So the development lies adjacent to and contiguous with the service boundaries for municipal services and has provided the public facilities statement, which you all have in your packet. The property currently maintains an active agricultural use, so the zoning will remain as Indian River County Agricultural A1, which is consistent with all of the lands to the west in Fellsmere and beyond. They have changed the land use in some instances, but it remains in county zoning because the agricultural uses are continuing. The applicant has not indicated future plans for the property at this time, and of course, attachment A is your justification. The Exhibit C, which was again provided by the applicant, shows you all of the right-of-ways and canals that transect this particular property. Exhibit D shows you that utilities are adjacent and available. We have wastewater and water along 510, and it has already been brought south into Liberty Park, which is just to the east of this property. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a traditional neighborhood development that is going in. It's been in the planning stages for many years, but I believe it's finally going to happen. And of course, water's been brought into VLE on the west. So it is available and adjacent. This is our, obviously, our future land use map. And I think it's an important map to show you. I made that nice and large so that the audience can see the true legend that we have all come up with. The proposed change of land to a higher intensity of use is consistent with the current land uses along County Road 510. DOT has funded the widening of this and the improvement of this road. The PD&E is completed. They have funding in place to break ground and start purchasing right-of-way in the very near future. This has been in the planning in the books for 15 years. So it's definitely timely. We need to begin it. They are beginning the construction from 512 down to, I think, 87th, I want to say, at this time. They will be beginning in the next couple of years the widening improvements of that. Along the 510 corridor exists a mix of zoning and land uses that are consistent with growth patterns on any major thoroughfare. From US Highway 1 to County Road 512, there's existing uses ranging from residential, multifamily, commercial, PUD, T&D, public, and conservation. As the city of Sebastian continues to experience infill development, which we see rapidly through the Highlands right now, and eventual build-out, the city must seek areas outside existing boundaries in order to provide services for the residents. An appropriate designation for the subject property should provide suitable uses for potential future developments that support the sustainability of the city. The proposed flume designation of mixed use is appropriate at this time because urban growth is contiguous and agricultural activities, unfortunately, are no longer economically viable, especially in this area. I wanted you also to be, let me go back for one moment, just to jog your memories and for any of our residents that may be looking at this. We have a multitude of land uses that we all put into our comprehensive plan 2040. Our medium density residential, which is the multifamily, right? We always had 8 units per acre. Right now, we had our first reading for a new zoning district of the RM10, which you are all very familiar with. And that gave us the 10 units per acre for multifamily uses, up to 12 with incentives. If you all recall this was all approved through you all. And we did that particularly to address the affordable housing crisis that has hit the country. And well, heck, all throughout the world, really. But you all really have pushed for us to address this in the best way that we can. Smaller units, higher density, doesn't necessarily equate to affordable or attainable, but it's the step in the right direction. And we need to keep that in mind, because when you have 3 units per acre, these are large lots, generally larger homes, and they certainly do not equate to something that's affordable. And it's unfortunate, but that is true. And so we're moving in the direction you all have asked us to move into by these land uses. I just wanted to jog everybody's memory and put that out there to educate anyone who was not here while we went through this process. The adjacent land uses for the county, here they are, right in your packet. It lines them out for you for future land use. Their adjacencies are L-1, which is the low residential 3 units per acre. There's ag, there's conservation, there's rural. In the next 2, that's a little bigger for you. In Fellsmere, adjacent is ag, and what's interesting, and I don't have a clicker here, pointer there, but where you see 7 and 6, the light green, that's mixed use. They have mixed use land use there. And so it's very compatible to what we're proposing in Fellsmere. This is the MPO's cost feasible plan for their priority roadway projects. As you see, again, I wish I had a pointer. 11 by 11 or 12 there, you're showing 82nd Avenue. The improvements to that have been moving forward. Of course, the widening of 510, and unfortunately, the widening and 6-laning of US 1, which I'm not going to talk about. So I wanted to bring this forward to you, and this isn't the first time you've seen this either, but it shows the commercial nodes that are in existence or planned in the very near future in the county. You see our Sebastian, we have a little bit of commercial on the south side of 512. Of course, US 1 corridor is a big commercial area, as well as for the county, up and down. Heavy commercial and industrial are the land uses for US 1 in the county. Not much going on out west, and then of course down south. In between Sebastian and 60th, we'll just say, the county has a vision of having the single-family homes, auto-dependent, functionally unrelated, on septic systems. We all know that this is sprawl. There is a great deal of single-family residential developments in that area, and I just asked the question, which I know all of you ask, where are they going to shop? Where are they going to have jobs? Where are they going to go to work? Except through the city of Sebastian. And so that is, again, I believe the intent of this commission in saying we need a more mixed-use, town-centered type of development. That's your urban sprawl in the county. So what are the benefits of a mixed-use development? You all know this. This is really for those that were not involved in all of our conversations. But a successful mixed-use project considers many factors: transportation, employment, residential, and environmental, to create a more holistic space for living. We went through our sustainability, our livability, the AARP livability standards, smart growth standards. When you have a mixed use, it should be more of a town center with commercial and employment district, and then moving out higher density, multifamily, and then of course your lower density developments. That is a perfect mixed use, okay? Doesn't always happen, but that is something to achieve. And in it, we have compact development, we have stronger neighborhood character, sense of place, more walkable communities, greater housing variety and density. And that is, again, one of our comprehensive plan policies and goals. Our mixed-use land use has been identified here for all of you. I just wanted to make sure you understood the corresponding compatible zoning districts that fall under this land use. All right? In a development such as this, it would most likely be developed under a PUD. And in that PUD, we would have to adhere to our other zoning districts. What would I say? I gave you the general permitted uses and the zoning classes. On the right-hand side of your slide, I found it very interesting that in 2019, when we went through this, the Indian River County, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and Fellsmere all encouraged us to adopt a mixed-use land use. And I feel that that shows that we are working with our surrounding neighbors in doing just such a thing. This was interesting, and please take time to read it. This is, maybe I'll read it out loud. This was actually what this commission recommended as conditions of approval for the future land use map amendment in 2019. And if I don't have a picture of it, but in that future land use map amendment, it included a bunch of land uses: commercial, industrial, multifamily, single family, public institution, conservation. We had it all in a mixed bag, which is now under mixed use. But if you read this, we're saying that as a condition of approval, and we put it in the ordinance, rezoning of the property shall be done through a planned unit development process. Housing type shall be mixed to meet various income levels and lifestyle choices. We knew that in 2019 we needed to do this. Future dedication of right-of-way for any interconnected, extended, and improvement of the grid road system, along with a well-planned transportation system of roads and streets throughout the development in coordination with Indian River County. Provision for mixed-use town center area. Our land use specifically says that. Mixed-use land use specifically says this. Future dedication and donation of institutional lands necessary for governmental services, such as a post office's public safety, schools, et cetera, that may be needed for increases in necessary services. Strategic assembly of commerce and industrial development at major intersections. Future dedication of conservation lands to include any wetlands of significant importance, such as the headwaters, and the provision of greenway trails and public access to those areas. I really wish I had made a slide of our previous, but we had that in there with the greenway trails and everything being connected with greenways. It was quite well done. Dedication of city park and recreational lands above what will be required in the individual residential subdivision development. If you remember, in our current comp plan, we state that you can get benefits for going above our recreation code, but also we require 25% of native habitat to be set aside in conservation. Increased buffers adjacent to low-density areas outside of the PUD. That would be our adjacent, agricultural uses or rural uses that are in existence today. We would have our increased buffering that we already require. As a condition of future development, sufficient land area shall be allocated for infrastructure required to support the development and mandate hookup to central potable water and wastewater systems for all new developments prior to receiving development orders. So, of course, at the time of the development entitlements that come with zoning and site plan development, we will ask for, which we always do for every development, a conceptual plan, right, with the rezoning, but also with the site planning, it will have to be connected to our water and sewer infrastructure. That is the time when you see the master plans. That is the time when you make those those development entitlements. Okay? I just wanted to point this out to you because, again, these are conditions that we put into the ordinance for the flume the last time. I thought they were very interesting when I pulled them up again. Quick tutorial. These are densities. You've seen this before. Very low density. We have in the city 3 units per acre. This example is 4 units per acre, but think about South Mununder, Laurel Reserve, Cross Creek Lake Estates. That's 3 units per acre. Lovely developments. Low density is 5 units per acre here in the city of Sebastian. This example is 6. Think about Sebastian Highlands. What's also interesting is Spirit of Sebastian, 5 units per acre. They're low density. Everybody was concerned that we were going to have this many residential units. The phase 1 and phase 2 pods are down to, Dory, is it 2? It's under 2 units per acre because, again, this is not by right. This is not by right. You have to include the roads, the buffers, the stormwater, the sidewalks, the landscaping. There is a lot. I mean, it goes down to 60% of that at best, okay? And that's the same with FARs, any intensities. This is medium density. This is a 9 units per acre in Sebastian. This is an old slide, I apologize. Our medium density is 8. We have now moved it up to 10 with the RM10. Think of our different apartments and duplexes throughout the city. We already have it. This is FAR, again, another tutorial just to show you what a 0.5 FAR is. It's half the property, which, again, is not by right. Not by right. Doesn't mean you're going to get 50% of a 1-story building on the property. It probably will be less once you add in the stormwater, yada, 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 yada. And no, we are not going to 4 stories or to 8 stories. That's still not anywhere on the books. This is just an example. Development entitlements. Again, these were things that were given out at the workshop, so I just wanted to make sure we touch on them. Mainly the open space, that's always a concern. We have examples of city policies related to environmental protection. I think we're doing great in this community as far as protections. We have at least 50% of development area must be open space. 50%. And in our PUDs, they range from 25 to 50, depending, we have PUD-I, which is industrial, and then, of course, PUD-R, which is residential, and that's mainly the 50%. But those are our numbers for open space, as you see. And then these are just different, actually, I took from Kimley Horn's little book there, Sarah. These are examples of different mixed-use developments. I hope I haven't bored you. I wanted to make sure that we covered our bases here this evening, but I am here to answer any questions that you may have of me or any of the staff. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lisa. We're going to open it up now to public input. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition? Again, please don't forget to identify yourself.
Apologize?
Don't forget to identify yourself.
Oh, thank you. George, last name is Glenn, Glenn Jr. I'm an attorney in Indian River County. I'm also on the board of Pelican Island Audubon Society, a legal advisor to the Clean Water Coalition, and I work with some of the other environmental groups. I wanted to talk about a few things. I know I have a limited amount of time. We first proposed a couple months back that the city of Sebastian engage with a consultant to master plan this property, this 2,000 plus acres, to come up with a new plan that's specifically site specific, that would incorporate the fact that it's got the headwaters of the St. Sebastian River, its location. It would bring groups together, concerned citizens, organizations, local governments. It would receive input, and then it would make a proposal based on those inputs. It was rejected, and I feel like I want to sort of set the record straight, because I feel like the message was, well, that's just crazy. We don't do that. But Martin County did it recently. Alachua County is doing it currently for 4,000 acres. When I was in the county attorney's office, and city of Fellsmere was developing their villages of Fellsmere, we worked with them, and if you were to go to the city of Fellsmere, you would see this master plan of where exactly development's going, where their open space is going to be, and you can include such things as even job creation, like the DCA, which is the former Department of Community Affairs, said to Fellsmere, if you want to keep getting additional entitlements, you can do that, but you have to show job creation. You have so much ability when you are annexing and doing a land use change to exact items that will protect existing residents. And so there are consultants out there that do it. They do a wonderful job. We encouraged Sebastian to do it. It didn't happen, but it very much is a normal part of the process. There are a couple things I want to go over that I just have questions about. The first is, in reading the staff report, it seems to rely heavily on the notion that it's likely going to come in through a PUD. If you read page 3, it goes into various policies about the PUD, and I think that's where they're trying to tell you you're going to get all this flexibility for buffering the headwaters of the St. Sebastian River and doing various things. But the fact is that it appears the PUD is just, by definition, a strictly voluntary process. If you apply a mixed-use land use category today, you saw the 8 categories of zoning that it will eventually follow. Some of those are PUD, but most of them are not. It's up for the future developer to decide whether he wants to go through a PUD process or if he wants to do a standard development. So just remember, you don't have that flexibility to require that in the future. You can do it now, but not in the future. The other item I wanted to talk about is some that wasn't addressed in the staff report, but I came across in your comp plan, and it was addressed in the application. The application acknowledged that there is a agriculture land use category that is in your comp plan, and that says that there's a creation of agricultural land use designation. I won't read all of it. I will read the last sentence. The city shall also utilize the agricultural land use designation for future annexations of existing agricultural land. So what have we heard? You're annexing currently agricultural land, so it fits into this definition. So it is supposed to receive an agricultural land use designation until such time that urban growth is contiguous and agricultural activities are no longer economically viable. Those are 2 findings that you need to make, that urban development is now somehow upon those 2,000 acres, and I think if you've driven around the area, probably realize there's not a lot of urban growth there. And the other is that agricultural activities are no longer economically available. I believe you heard during your community development director's presentation that they're currently doing agriculture on the property. And in fact, in the agenda that was before the city council just 2 nights ago, it stated the property currently maintains an active agriculture use, so the zoning will remain as agriculture A1 with the county until such time as the applicant petitions the city for a zoning amendment. So if they're actively doing agriculture on the property, by definition, what should apply, at least from what I'm reading in your comp plan, is this agriculture land use amendment. Until such time where that's no longer viable, they're no longer, that urban growth has approached it, and they can come in and get some type of land use change. So that's something that I would sort of think should be addressed. Some of the other concerns that we have are absolutely with the open space. Right. So you all created a mixed-use district. That's phenomenal. It should be in your comp plan. But there's a difference between applying a mixed-use land use category to lands that are already entitled. Right. This is the mindset that I'm hoping that sinks in. You have lands that already are entitled. I think you read, I think you did one just a few minutes ago in annexation. It's going from L1 to CG. That's already got development entitlements. So you're really limited on what you can exact from that type of property. But when you're dealing with a property that's outside the urban service area, it's a blank slate. You don't have to worry about setting up all these, you don't have to worry about giving it certain things that you would if it was already in the urban service area and had like a 3 units to an acre designation. You are taking 2,000 acres that currently has the right to develop 400 residential units. And the question I have is, do you even know how many residential units are going to be allowed on the property with a mixed use? Because I'm not sure. I've heard that there's going to be an annexation agreement that's not in front of you, but there may be an annexation agreement. Maybe they'll cap it at 3 units an acre. Even if they do that, you're talking about 6,000 residential units. When I was here 2 years ago in front of the planning and zoning, they had a traffic impact fee study that showed the enormous impact from such a development. I don't see it in this packet. I would think that's something that you would want to know before you do such a massive change, is to say, what type of impacts are we going to get? What type of densities are we going to have with this property? The open space. I think initially Ms. Fraser say, well, it's been farmed over, most of this 2,000 acres, so there's no natural areas on it. But then the follow-up was, oh, we have this great plan because we're going to require 25% of our native habitat to be set aside. Well, 25% of 0 is 0, right? So it's great to say you're setting aside 25% of a native habitat, but if really all you're looking at is sort of a small slough and everything else has been farmed over, you're not preserving a lot. When you look at even in your land use plan, where your comp plan, you have a definition for open space corridor system. And in that, it defines, the desire to protect open spaces, create greenways, trails, blah, blah, blah. Corridor widths shall be defined based on the natural range of targeted habitat species, however, generally considered to be a minimum of 25 feet. That's your buffer, 25 feet in your comp plan. Here's the thing. If you have entitled property, you're really limited on what you can do. That might be a good exaction if you're dealing with property inside the urban service area. You're dealing with property that's entitled to 400 units. You're going to potentially give it, 6,000, 4,000, 10,000. I don't know how many, but this is the time that you put your exactions down on paper. Once you entitle the property with a land use, it's gone. Those 8 uses as a zoning, those are the opportunities, those are the choices that the developer has. So this is the time to do your exactions. This is the time to see a more thorough plan on what this is going to look like. You're very blessed in Sebastian. I've been a lifelong resident. You have so many wonderful natural communities and amenities. You have a massive property that has the slough of the St. Sebastian River. We've always asked that that be buffered significantly, that that be protected. At one point, the applicant had been awarded St. Johns River Water Management District grant to construct a dispersed water management project on the property to clean water before it enters into the St. Sebastian River. We've always said, why not make that a permanent feature of the property? Because that was only a 10-year project. And so we said, do you even know if that's still on the books? If it is, why would you not want to make that as part of the exaction process? Hey, the taxpayers are going to pay for you to do a water project to clean water. We want it to be permanent. There's so many things that can happen in this process. But I'm telling you my personal belief as a former county lawyer that this is the time to do it. If you wait into the future after the land use, you're not going to have a chance to do the same things. We would hope that there would have been a master plan for this, that we could look at a map and see the great plan. We're not out to stop Sebastian. We don't want to stop Sebastian. We know we're going to grow. This is probably a good area to grow if we're going to see area grow, but it should be done the right way. It should be a way that protects our natural resources and our existing residents.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Richard Baker, President of the Pelican Island Audubon Society, and you are critical to our environment, and it's very important. You're going to have some very important decisions to make here. Our environment needs all your help. Please use, you mentioned where we are for or against when we come up here. I don't think we're for or against. We want to get it done right. And so this annexation is an opportunity to institute a different visionary development. The clear-cut grass lawns and palm trees pollute our lagoon, the St. Sebastian River, the canals and lands that desperately need your help. Our fish, our manatees, our other animals, and seagrasses are dying because of our fertilizer and our runoff. Sebastian, our cities and county must revise first our tree ordinances, our landscape ordinances, so developers just don't go in and clear cut. Plant the usual grass and a palm tree. Our existing trees are trying to save us by cleaning our air of carbon dioxide and providing oxygen, what we breathe. Cooling our temperature by 8 degrees. Providing habitat for our birds and animals and wildlife. Protect us from storms. Some even provide us with something to eat. Since 100 years ago when the lawnmower was invented, we are planting more grass than corn, and we can't even eat it. Grass takes up 64% of our drinking water, 88% in the summertime. We are running out of drinking water. It's getting more and more expensive to produce. Grass, because their roots are only 2 inches deep. Native plants are at least 12 inches. So they're down there deeper, and they don't need to be watered twice a week. They get their water from the bottom up, and not just that it evaporates off the top of the 2 inches. Excuse me. Turf grass actually requires a lot of nitrogen, fertilizers, herbicides, and chemicals to keep it green, and produces tons of CO2 from these mowers and blowers, and they wake you up in the morning, and they waste a lot of money on just lawns. So I would like to recommend that you reduce your sods to 15 to 20%. I think they're 50% now, which would be ideally to keep natural areas. And let's save at least 1 tree per lot when you're developing it. We don't have to have this clear cutting. And then you can go in and plant 1 tree. Now, Collier Creek is a very nice development as you're coming down Roseland Road. The older part has got some beautiful trees around it. But the newer part, if you drive down one of the roads, and I forgot what the name of it is, there's only 1 development in about 3 blocks that has a tree. All the rest are palm trees. My understanding is that when they built, they were supposed to put a tree in. A palm is not a tree. A palm is a grass. Totally different. So we would like to see you have at least a tree in the front yard and not just a palm. All homes and communities must become environmentally sustainable. Please provide visionary leadership for our future and our lands. Get the best experts to help us in this process. What we're doing now is not working. It would be great if we could put some of this ag land back into the original forests and wetlands where it came from. But if we can't do that, maybe we could actually feed people with it too. I mean, people are starving. We're running out of food. There's plenty of agricultural land that should be used so we can eat in the world. And let's work for our health. Let's work together for our future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Tim Glover, President of Friends of St. Sebastian River, and we were party to a letter that was sent to the Sebastian City Council back a few months ago, and we recommended to the council that they engage an outside consultant for planning and development for this, as George was mentioning, for a master plan, and as he also mentioned that it's been done, or is currently being done for a couple of large-scale developments around the state. Martin County, I understand, has been rather successful. I think their council is, or commission rather, has been rather impressed with the results of that. So we would ask that you would consider that for a recommendation to the council with whatever you come up with for your final recommendation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition?
I have one hand on Zoom as well.
I'm sorry?
I have one person on Zoom as well.
Okay, well, we'll let the person here first. Yes.
Hello, I'm Diana Bolton. I'm a resident of Sebastian. I'm a grandmother, a boat captain, have a degree in environmental marine science. I grew up here, went to Sebastian Elementary School and Vero Beach High School, and I've seen a lot of changes. I'm also worked a lot with developers. I've been in partnership with developers, and I have bought in several developments, helped finance several developments as I had a career in mortgage banking and for 23 years. And so I know about numbers and know how to crunch them. I'm pro-development if it's done right. There's a lot of holes in this, and there's a lot of going back to the drawing board. I'm also a conservationist. I sit on 2 boards of directors with the Friends of the St. Sebastian River and also with the Indian River Keepers. So I can see it from a lot of different perspectives, but this is really critical for our town. We're talking about, on the back of the napkin calculations, this amount of acreage, 1984 or 1919, whatever it is. I see there's 2 different numbers here. And I'm looking at, if you look at the exhibit on page 3, is it page 3? Yeah, page 3, the writing on here is very small, but page 3, if you look at it, you'll see the big pink section there, which is the designated annexed subject property. And if you look for pink anywhere, I don't see that color pink anywhere on this whole map. Nowhere. The only place I see it is for this property. So the plan is to have a mixed use designated use of 10 to 12 units. There's nowhere else on here. You know, I'm hearing, oh, this is just, you know, just don't worry about it. No, there's a lot to worry about here, because what a developer will do, and I would do as a developer, is if that's what I can get away with and it's designated that's what I'm going to build. Because why not? I mean, why wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I would. Of course we would. It's pink, all pink. There's no green space. There's no wildlife corridors. There's no conservation area. I'm hearing the word sustainable, conservation, environmental, greenway, wildlife corridors, but I don't see that here. And the headwaters for the St. Sebastian River run right through this property, and nowhere is that addressed on here. So we're looking at 10 to 12 units. Okay, let's say 10 because it's easier math in your head. That's 20,000 homes. And according to our census, we've got about 2.2 family members per household. So that's about 44,000 new residents, which is what you would be giving the okay to. 44,000 new residents. Right now, Sebastian is the #1 city. We're the biggest city in Indian River County. We have, as of today, I looked it up, 26,000 residents. You're looking here at taking that responsibility and making history by adding an additional 44,000 residents. Do we need affordable housing? Absolutely. When you talk about affordable housing, do we need this much affordable housing? And usually affordable housing in many cases, especially high density, is going to be rental. So are we talking 40,000 new residents that are all going to be renting? I don't think so. So you know that's not right. We all know that's not right. But my big concern, besides the numbers and the fact that we can't handle the infrastructure, is if you look on page 2, the Site Thoroughfare Plan Network and SRID Canals, Exhibit C, on page 2, where is the wildlife corridor? Where are the headwaters? No one's even talking about this. If you look on Google Maps, and I hope our viewers are looking on Google Maps and will look at this spot, because a lot of people I've spoken to, they're very concerned, but they don't even exactly know where it is. I've walked this property. I went back there with boots on, 4 hours back. It's beautiful. It's primal. We're talking giant cypress trees and cypress knees and pathways that the only footprints are animals, all kinds of animal footprints. And that's our headwaters of the St. Sebastian River. Right now, we do water sampling for ORCA, which is one of the many environmental organizations that I support here. And when we do, we have a sampling site, a water sampling site on the St. Sebastian River in the headwaters on the kayak launch. Of all the sites we have, and there's several, of very good sampling that's being done right now and laboratory work that's being done by ORCA. Check them out, ORCA, O-R-C-A, online. That's the cleanest water site we have right now. Now, you know and I know, looking forward, if this goes through, we're not going to be able to keep that water clean as it stands. There is no provision in here.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Thank you.
You see grids of canals, but you don't see any corridors, you don't see any conservation area. We need more green space. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? We have someone on Zoom in opposition?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Cox, you should be clear. Mr. Cox, you're unmuted.
We ran into this problem the other night. There we go. Maybe that's going to do the trick.
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
There we go. I appreciate it. My name is Graham Cox. I live at 1213 George Street. And I want to just underline some of the things that have been said by Diana, by Dr. Baker, and by George Glenn. First is, this is a very big and complex issue that needs some real expertise to steer it through to fruition. And I know we've had some rejection by the city council members saying we don't want to, we'll work with existing staff and we don't want to hire a consultant. But it's a big and complex project, and we shouldn't be rushing this to get it done by December 14th. We should think about it, and if we have to take several more months, we should do that. It's the biggest event in 20 years. I've been in Sebastian for nearly 20 years. It's the biggest event that I have seen and that we have going. And I come from a place in northern England called Yorkshire where they say, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I think that we need to really emphasize how we do this job well. We need a consultant who has environmental experience. I've got great respect for our current community development office, but I don't think that they really have the expertise in there to do what we need to do on this thing. The second thing we need is an annexation agreement. if you look at the history in this county of, for example, Fellsmere, they have a 26-page agreement on what has to happen, and it's complex. We haven't seen an agreement. There's been no public input, obviously, for an agreement because we don't have one. The third thing I'll say is we need a plan. Just talking general mixed use or mixed use in general terms is not a plan. I think the way it's being described here is probably going to scare people in this town as to how many people are going to live there. Diana raises all these numbers. We don't know. What numbers are we talking about? The county needs these numbers in order to decide how much they can provide for sewer and water systems. And in particular, and in my early work years, spent a lot of time doing open space plans. We need an open space plan that is based upon a natural resource inventory for this part of the world. So let's do this right. Let's do this with some real help and some real expertise. Let's look at the basic things that have to be done before we start approving land use things. I know that it goes to the state for approval and the 30-day comment period, but I'd like to see us spend more time looking at this complex. I'll repeat again, it's a big event, it's a big and complex issue, and we need more time to really get into the detail on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this development? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Scholke, Brill and Stoddard. I'm the engineer for the applicant. I prepared the application. One, I wanted to just mention again, like Lisa said, I am here to answer any questions you may have. Two, I just want to relay a couple messages from the applicant and just remind everybody, tonight I think we're discussing the potential for a future flume designation of mixed use. And you guys, I think, are making a recommendation to council. We're not here to approve any development agreements. We're not considering the annexation tonight. And we're not asking for any services tonight. This is just a step in the process. We will be doing an annexation agreement and negotiating and working out with city staff and city council. And that is appropriate time we'll be talking about any limitations or what the city needs and what the developer needs, things like that. It's a little premature to be talking about some of those things right now. The intentions are for the developer to work with the city on all these type of issues. As far as some of the things Mr. Glenn said, the sky is not falling because there's a development happening here. What he didn't tell you is that the 400 units that could go on this site right now, every one of them would have a septic tank. Every one of them. And Erie County doesn't even allow you to connect the sewer if you're outside the urban service area. They'd have a septic tank. What they didn't tell you is if you have agricultural property, if it was viable to put agricultural property on here and you're growing corn or you're growing any of these things, you could put virtually unlimited amounts of pesticides and fertilizers on it. You only have best management practices. You don't have systems to actually remove the pollutants. These things will go right into the river. It's just the opposite of that with new development. You have to ensure you're not allowing fertilizers, pesticides, any of those things to go into our natural resources to impact our river. There's a lot of merit to looking at a good development and things that will be an asset to the city, with our tax base, affordable housing, new employment opportunities, and so that'll all be worked out with city council in the future, and I just think it's a good idea to go forward with it. By the way, I also wanted to mention I am a resident of the city of Sebastian. I've been here for 30 years. I think it's a great idea. I'm looking forward to this project going forward.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this? Okay. Staff summary?
Well, I want to say that I really appreciate all of the public who gave their input for this project, because it is important. And I want to assure this commission that we are taking our time to think about this, and there's many meetings. Alone today, I was in 4 different meetings in regard to this particular project. We are considering many conditions and putting in the annexation agreement items that will benefit this city and that will be brought forward. I also want to share with you that you know, you do have also your own recommendation to make. So you can take some of these appropriate conditions and make them part of your recommendation this evening. So I wanted to make sure that you are all aware of that also, okay? And I'm here to answer any of your concerns or to provide you with backup information on whatever you heard this evening, okay? Thank you.
Okay. We're going to close the public input now, and the board will get into deliberation. And again, we'll start on this end of it. Nothing? No questions?
I would like to see the 43 acres that we originally had put aside to protect the the slough. I'd like to see that back in there. It is an ecologically sensitive area. And I don't think that would be developed anyway. Most of that is, some of it's wetlands. I've been in that area, so. And I'm sure at the time Mr. Bass didn't want to see that developed either.
So in answering your question, all those things will be discussed.
Right.
And, you know, he had no opposition to it before. He had buffers around it. He had the conservation land.
No, I'm aware
before,
of it.
And then he had buffers. So, you know, these are things that I don't anticipate will
be a problem.
An issue to discuss. I mean, there's a whole lot of meat and potatoes just in the ordinance that restricts development. So when you hear 22,000 units, that means you would have no way to drive there. There would be no roadways. There would be no. So when you hear that number, you have to ask yourself, why is that number being said? Number one is, and I made sure Lisa included that slide that talked about, it's in our ordinance that you have to have the buffers. You have to have the 50% green space. So when someone tells you it's going to be 22,000 homes, I would not take that to the bank, because the ordinance that she went through and clearly went through, all of those buffers, all of the wetlands, and is all part of the ordinance, whether it's in an annexation agreement or not. It's in the ordinance. The enacting ordinance requires those items to be done. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I don't want someone walking away saying, wow, there could be.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
You have to take it in its totality, not just the most dense use. You have to look at what other uses are required to be put in at the same time.
Thank you. I think that's important. The public understands that.
And it is. And I think it's also important to understand mixed use. So when you have people stating there's going to be 10,000 residential units, that's not mixed use. Right. So we are going to make sure that in any agreement, it will be pertaining to a mixed-use town center type of development. That's about all I can lay out for you at this moment. And if you look back at Fellsmere, again, they have a mixed-use land use, right? There's 4 pages, not 22. They're confused with the 18,000 acres they annexed in a million years ago, and that's the village of Fellsmere, completely different, okay? The Corrigan Ranch, 8,800 acres. Anson property, like 2,500. Those are mixed-use land use. Today, they still sit there with their agricultural zoning from the county. Nothing has changed. And there's 4 pages in the comp plan as site-specific conditions that were put in the ordinance for the future land use change. I just want to clarify that. There is no giant master plan on a wall somewhere. And if there is, I'd like to see it. That'd be great. I'd welcome it. Thank you.
I just have one further question.
Of course.
I had watched a previous city council meeting, and and it was discussed between yourself, Mr. Carlisle, and the city council, there seemed to be some confusion over the stormwater, control of stormwater in the area. I know it's Sebastian River Improvement District. Will it continue to operate, or will the city of Sebastian be responsible for maintaining canals and swales in that area? I think some people have asked me, and I wasn't quite sure.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, Madam Chair, I can address that, and Mr. Bassett, his superintendent, was here to address that as well. Vero Beach has an underlying water management district within it. And so those water management districts are established by the state either by statute 198 or 298. Those don't go away. When I was with Wellington, when we incorporated Wellington, Acme Improvement District is a water management district. They continue to be an independent district, and they still manage the major canals and thoroughfares. When we get into roadways and infrastructure and swales, that's when the city would determine if it's a private community, then they would take it over. If it's a public community, we would manage it just like we would do today. But the major infrastructure canals, drainage conveyances, currently today would be managed by the Sebastian River Improvement District. That won't go away. And so that's why the management fee or the stormwater fee for this land is only an administrative fee because we're not providing any services.
Okay, and I just want to follow up with one other one.
Absolutely.
I'm in agreement with this, in that we've seen how expensive it is for the city to do the retaining walls, replace them on some of the canals. When this is done on land that's controlled by the Sebastian River Improvement District, will the city of Sebastian be footing the bill for those improvements down the road, say 25 years when a wall fails?
So one, we don't know if there's going to be seawalls.
Okay.
We don't know what the drainage plan is going to look like because we don't know how each individual pod will be developed. Whether it will be water features, will it be slope banks and lakes? There's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of good things and do central water storage where you can use that for potable water down the road. There's a lot of things that can be done, but that will be done during the zoning process and the development process.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I just wanted to let the public know that we, this isn't just the Graves Brothers property. We're going to have Blue Water Bay, we'll have Liberty Park, all delivering stormwater into this area. So I had a concern over ultimately who's going to foot the bill. Thank you.
I have no questions.
Okay, I have a few questions. My first question kind of relates to just the magnitude of the density increase that we're talking about here. Was there a comparison done to quantify the amount of utility demand increase, and has that been communicated with county utility staff, and what communications have happened between the applicant and county staff that would be providing the service? I understand that you said water and sewer is provided near the property, but are the facilities adequate enough to accommodate the increased amount of demand that this would be generating?
So in accordance with your attachment A, it shows that there is enough capacity for any type of development that might be there. The concern by the county, and I may be speaking out of turn, and Mr. Carlisle will be better at answering this. The concern is, as you know, when a development order is put in, then you have your capacity, what's the word I'm looking for? License. So you set it aside for, I'm sorry?
Consumptive use permit.
Right, well, and you set it aside for that wastewater and that water when your development order comes in. Their concern is, what is the density going to be at this property and what is the usage? That's putting the cart before the horse at this point because there is no development design. So when they have enough capacity today and it isn't allocated to any particular development, then there is enough capacity. Does that make sense to you? No one else has claimed this usage. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that, I guess, Has anybody compared what the maximum would be, given the densities that are approved with?
Well, Sarah, as you would know, this is, so if you have 50% of open space, and now you have 1,000 acres, and then what are your uses on there? There are a bunch of mixed uses. It depends, it's market driven. Most mixed-use town centers are market driven. So there's no magical number as far as, 60% residential, 40% commercial or industrial. So those numbers could be made up and assumed, as most development or land use planning in an area is. Do you hear what I'm saying? So I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the concerns that I think I've heard and we've heard is that unknown, right? And to your point, are we putting the cart before the horse? But so my second question was, and I guess specific to the rezoning of the property and the mixed use, has there been community outreach meetings around this?
Well, we're not doing rezoning as of this point.
Okay, sorry, the land use change.
We've done 2 workshops, and we've had multiple public hearings here for the land use and annexation.
And what I guess what I'm hearing, there's a lot of folks who are looking for some type of plan. Has that, what's generating the reason behind not having the applicant come forward with a conceptual plan at this point?
Well, we did that last time, and it wasn't successful.
Okay.
So the applicant hasn't presented us with a plan, and, the mixed use is a applicable land use that has been approved by the DEO for this community. And when the applicant wants to move forward with a rezoning or development plan, then that's when we get the master plan. The examples being given of these counties and their master plans, they already have the land use in place. These master plans, these development entitlements are happening at the zoning and development plan stage, which is what we require also. So I am not saying no. I don't think anybody has said no that I hear from. But those types of conditions are appropriate for the land use. I'm trying to say this correctly. Conditions are appropriate for the land use to look at the things that might concern us, and they are appropriate for the annexation agreement. I think that we are far before we can do a master plan, that there's going to be a town center here, and this is going to be all residential here, and this is going to be this here. I don't think, that's always market driven, and we're just not there. Fellsmere doesn't have a master plan like that at all for their mixed use. So, because that came annexed in 2014, and there's no market for it yet. Do you hear what I'm trying to say? I don't think a master plan is appropriate at this point. Go ahead, Paul.
So we also need to be cognizant, and Ms. Battles, I know you're aware of this. When you get into a point where you start putting land uses and zoning in an annexation agreement, you could run afoul of contract zoning, and which is completely illegal in the state of Florida. So you have to be careful where you cross that line between regulation and then you step over that line of contract zoning. If it will let you come in, but you have to do this, that becomes contract zoning. And so we got to be careful where we walk that line. So there's ways that we have to work this annexation agreement and the land use. A lot of those are covered in our ordinance and our acting ordinances. So to say, well, we'll let you come in if you agree to put a fire station here and you agree to put that there, that's appropriate at the PUD stage. You start putting stuff like that in an annexation agreement, I'll let the attorney weigh in, you start getting close to contract zoning. So, if that makes sense.
So again, stating things like we did before, where, public facilities, where was I? Future dedication, donation of institutional lands necessary for governmental services, such as post office, public safety, schools, et cetera. Putting those type of conditions in an annexation agreement or an ordinance for land use, that doesn't trigger the contract zoning. Do you hear what I'm saying? But if you say at the corner of 77th Avenue and this canal, we're going to put a 75-acre wastewater plant, well, that may not be appropriate in the future, and we don't even know if that's needed right now. So that's what we're hesitant to do, yet we are considering everything that's being put in front of us. So again, I want to make sure that you understand the limits of what can be done in this future land use consideration, and be assured that we are working towards an annexation agreement between the landowner and the city. I want you to be assured of that. But again, you know, this that you put out before as conditions of the land use isn't a bad start, and I consider it, add things to it. I'm going to leave that up to you all. You're smart cookies. But if you have, please give me more questions.
Well, to kind of follow that up a little bit, so so I hear the annex agreement is obviously going to kind of lay out the agreement and the plan between you and the landowner, or the city and the landowner. A lot of what kind of I think I've heard is that there's concerns that they can come in with one use. What type of safeguards are there in place if we move forward with the land use change that, you know, that they wouldn't be able to, you know, move forward with? I know you had mentioned, Paul, that there's uses required to be put in at the same time. I guess, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I can, and we go back to this. This is an enacting ordinance. This is not a suggestion. This is law. So,
This was for the last
right.
reason.
So this is for this is for our mixed use, and this is something that we can use, and it has all of those layouts, and Lisa went through it. And so when we look at these, it talks about provision of mixed-use town center areas. That's not residential. When you talk about we talked about post office, schools, public safety, those services are not residential. It says you're going to need to dedicate conservation lands. That's not residential. Dedication of parks. That's not residential. It talks about the development. Where was it at, Lisa? When it talked about the mixed use. So it says housing, future dedication of right-of-way, roads, streets, thoroughfares. It says it has to be mixed use to meet all levels of lifestyle and choices. So there's things in here, and we can add to these things in this under this enacting ordinance for the future land use. But what we don't want to do is leave this behind. This is a good guide for us to get there, and this is what we agreed to before. Yes. And I think this is a very good opportunity to make that happen. So. And
I would add that, you know, some of the other characteristics that's already in our comp plan, but if we want to add them into this as a condition, we can, about, you know, encouraging LID, the low impact design, encouraging, you know, green build. I mean, we have it in our policies in our comp plan, so they will be followed. But, you know, again, these are conditions that we can put on the land use in order to protect ourselves. And I hear what you're saying, Sarah. These are my conversations too, as we all move forward with this, is that we need to ensure that it is a mixed use. And how shall we do that? And we have a land use attorney who has been hired, and we are working with him to come up with really the language for that. Because we want to, but again, there's no magic number. There's no magic 70, 30, 60, 40. And I've asked all of the experts that I know about that, and they always say it depends. What's your market? What's your surrounding area gonna hold or maintain? When is this development going to occur? But putting parameters on it such as that is very important to us. So we hear that, and we are working towards that. If you have a magical number you want to throw out, you can go ahead, but I haven't found one yet.
Okay, so my next question, similar, and the answer might be very similar to the utility demand increase answer, but has it been looked at this time, the impact to the school district, any conversations with the school district?
No, that would come during zoning and land site plan development.
And with any development, the school board is autonomous, and they determine when a school goes in, when a school is needed, and everybody that builds a home pays a school impact fee.
Yep.
Just like everybody who builds a home, road impact fees, park impact fees, to offset their impact on that development of that area. So the school board today would have to look, if this was built in the county, it would be 4,000 units based on their T&D development, and those 4,000 homes may require additional school, but we don't know.
Yeah.
And they don't know today, the county doesn't know today.
I just asked the question because
No, I
it is
appreciate
such a
the question.
significant, increase in density, and, I just wonder at what stage has communication started with them? But I hear what you're saying. That's all of my questions.
I address you, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah talked about the utilities, and the only thing we're deciding tonight is agricultural to mixed use, recommending to the city council, period, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There were some concerns that I heard from some of the audience that some of the things aren't being looked at. Part of that was water. I'm showing that, and I don't know all the ordinances. I wish I did. But for example, on page 5, it talks about an aquifer recharge function. Well, I know water, that's about it. Recharge my batteries. And my question is, what is that to us as the commission? What are we looking at in terms of bringing it from agricultural to mixed use? And the concerns of the people in the audience, they said there were certain things that if we make this call tonight, that we're stopping certain things, and I'm not sure what those certain things are. They didn't tell me specifically. But I kind of want to know what those are. Water.
I could probably answer it, but I know you can do a better job than I.
So what was mentioned was water farming, where they store water on the property and basically store it till the vegetation, and that cleans it up, and then discharge it back into the Sebastian River. It came about in, I believe it was 2016, the legislature passed that as an agricultural use, simply because of the discharge coming out of the lake. Okeechobee is what started it. The problem with this was it was a pretty substantial water farming site on the property. It took up a considerable amount of property. What they couldn't get St. John's or the St. John's River Water Management District to concede is once they flooded it, and I'll let Mr. Scholke go into more detail if he needs to. Once they flooded it, they would not guarantee them that they would not then call it a wetland. So they did not want to do the project and then be penalized for cleaning up the water and then have their land designated as a wetland and not ever be able to do anything with it. Joe, is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Got one right.
Is that all?
I do have a couple of questions, primarily to Lisa. You seem to equate. Oh, is this on? You seem to have equated the 12 units per acre with affordable housing. Is that the only use?
No, and I'm sorry if I misspoke or if this didn't come out correctly. It's 10 units per acre is what we're allowing in our multifamily, correct? But with incentives, you can go up to 12. And the incentives, if we recall, a lot of the incentives are connectivity, more open space, more buffering, transfer of development rights, things of that nature. So not unlike what's allowed in the county now.
Okay,
So, I'm sorry, but all I'm stating is that, Mr. Simmons, is that typically for affordable or attainable housing, your unit size needs to be more dense and the unit area itself needs to be smaller. Because it then, you know, your costs for development, especially homes, as we all know, is the cost of the land. It's the cost of the materials to build these units. And so in order to make it more affordable for someone to purchase or rent, you need to make it more affordable to build. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that is why a higher density is typically equated with more affordable. Does that make sense?
no, I understand that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
The question is, can it also be used for something besides affordable housing?
Oh, absolutely,
So-
absolutely. We can have regular condos and, I mean, absolutely.
And the other question has to do with, I'm not for sure if John addressed it, I missed out on that, but the other acreage that has been annexed for graves, the 80 whatever acres it was, a couple of years ago, will they go through the same process if they chose to change that to mixed use?
Are we talking about something that's already in the city? Are we talking about Spirit of Sebastian? No,
talking about the first.
I think he's talking about the 67 acres north of 510 that were previously annexed in 2018. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes.
Oh, the flag,
It was
that's-
annexation that was made, it's a couple, 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, I gotcha. No, that's general commercial. And they're staying general commercial as the land use.
Okay, but, okay.
Am I not answering your questions, Mr. Simmons? I apologize.
No, you are. I was asking if this process would also,
Oh, include that? No, sir. This is not included in this process whatsoever. You all changed the land use for that piece of property many years ago.
okay, thanks.
Sorry, so I got another question as you were talking, it kind of popped in my mind. Do we have, I guess, does staff plan on having more community outreach meetings as you work through this process of, and I know this is not what's before us, but I'm curious, when you move forward with the annexation agreement, or is there community involvement in that process at all?
I believe we've already gotten a lot of the community input through our workshops and through these public meetings, but pretty much the annexation agreement will be between the council and the landowner at this point.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. That's
Well,
completely up to the council.
It would be a council decision if
Yes.
they wanted to have more workshops. You know, we put the documents together, we're gonna review it with the county, we're gonna review it with the landowner, obviously. And then if council wanted to workshop it, they would give us direction to do so, and we would follow those directions.
Now it's my turn. I would just like to assure the public that this is not our first rodeo. We've been working these things for years. Our new comp plan, if you have read it, the 2040 plan, is something that took us more than a year to do. And when I was going through this plan, I as I do with most things, I've got the comp plan here on my right, and I've got this on my left, and I'm like checking with both hands. This comes pretty darn close to everything that our comp plan calls for. But I also want to assure the public that this is not one fell swoop, 2,000 acres. This brings the 2,000 in, and then each chunk that gets developed comes before planning and zoning and the city staff, and every part of the development must then go through the water runoff, the plantings, the buffers, the okays from St. John's, the making sure it fits all of the ordinances. And each one of those meetings is also open to the public. And I need to tell you folks, the few of you who are sitting here tonight represent a crowd as opposed to the folks who normally attend these meetings. But the information is here, and we always wish that there were more people who were coming here and asking their questions and getting their answers directly, as opposed to, he said this, and I think he said that, and I think I overheard someone saying this or that. This is the place to get the answers. This is the place to address the problems or the questions, and I am delighted to have all of you here, whether you're opposed to or in favor of this. I'd just like to say that the comp plan is a master plan. It's a master plan for the city. It's the most basic of master plans. And every one of the meetings that we had for the comp plan was also open to the public. We solicited opinions, we asked for input, and that was just approved. And a comp plan lasts 20 years. I think this is my second or third one, I can't remember. I'm pretty darn old, but this is my favorite one because it addresses multiple use. And multiple use is like insurance. Multiple use says it can't be all houses on half-acre lots with one tree in the yard, because we all know that that's not healthy. We're looking to, the recognition is that this city will grow, or the surrounding areas will grow, whether they're in the city or not. And we would like to have the opportunity to control how that growth happens, what it looks like. And the only way that can happen is if we have control over the land, and the only control we ever get over the land is if it's within our borders. So that's my little ditty, and if no one has any other questions, I'm going to ask for a motion. Do we have a mover here, guys? Okay.
I make a motion that we recommend City Council large-scale comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, Graves Brothers Company applicant, proposed annexation and amendment to the comprehensive plan, future land use map for property consisting of 1,913.593 acres, more or less, located south of County Road 510, west of lands adjacent to 74th Avenue, north of 69th Street, and east of 90th Avenue. Current county future land use is AG1, agricultural, 1 unit per 5 acres. The requested city land use is MU, mixed use, with no further conditions as far as I can see.
A little bit of a problem.
A little bit of a logistics problem, Mr. Cristino.
Oh.
Just my only comment, I think Mr. Cristino is an alternate. He's not going to be
Oh,
voting,
that's
so
right.
he
I
cannot
can't
be
make
making
the
a
motion.
motion.
You are correct. I forgot all about
I have to
it.
get Dory, she's the one that brought it to our attention, but it's not any slight for you, Mr. Cristino.
No,
It's
I
just
understand.
procedure, that's it.
I forgot all about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
They're looking at me, Linda, it's your fault.
I just don't want to be the only one making motions up here, guys.
Go ahead. What he said.
That's all right,
Yeah.
someone else has to do it, though. It was a long read, go for it.
So are you moving to recommend?
He's done
I am moving, if I can recommend. He says no.
No, he can't because he's an
I
alternate.
can't because I'm
But you
not
could.
voting
He's an
tonight.
alternate.
Yes, but you can.
Okay. All right, then I move that we recommend to the city council approval of the land use change from county A1 to city MU based on the fact that it meets the requirements of the City of Sebastian Comprehensive Plan of 2040.
Can I add a condition?
Sure.
So, I
I
think it
think
would
you
be.
need a second first.
Oh,
and then-
sorry.
And then maybe add a condition.
You want to make a second with a condition? She can make a second with a condition, can she not?
That's right, she can.
Okay, I'll second with a condition. I'd like to see the applicant, come, and I guess because of all of the concerns with the public and stuff, come forward with a conceptual plan. I think, so I would like to add that condition.
Well, we don't normally get conceptual plans for land use changes.
So, may I suggest that, again, I know I keep putting it in front of you. These were conditions that you all put on the last future land use amendment. And we recommend that you add these conditions to your recommendation of approval. Of course, the concept plan, that's still being discussed right now, but I would recommend that we put these conditions in your approval too. But you're still discussing the concept plan.
Does that work?
Are you in agreement
So
with that
I would
as the first?
definitely agree with that. I think that they should be added as conditions.
Does that work with,
That is fine with
that's
me.
acceptable?
That's acceptable to my motion.
Okay, so then
So we're just ready to vote.
okay.
So I'm sorry, clarify that again. So we're going to add the conditions. Are we also adding the request to do a conceptual plan?
Yeah, the conditions that you specified on here.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The conditions that you specified here
Yes.
are part of the motion.
Yes, ma'am. But also, Ms. Battles had requested a conceptual plan. Are we?
No, she accepted this.
She's
In lieu
accepting
of?
this in exchange for the conceptual
Okay.
plan.
And I do want to point out, we need to make one small alteration. It states the last sentence, the very last sentence, says these services may be provided by the county or alternative services. We need to scratch that out.
The
Because
alternative services.
that's correct. The county is in agreement to serve all of the infrastructure or the utility services, provide all the utility services. It's getting late. So we would just need to scratch out or alternative services. That's all.
Did you understand why? Okay. Okay. We'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Lucier?
Yes.
Ms. Battles?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Kinchin?
Yes?
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
And Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
The vote is 7-0 in favor. Motion passes.
Thank you. Now we have quasi judicial. Thank you. Okay. Sorry you had to wait all this time. Chairman hereby opens the quasi judicial hearing. And if our attorney will read the ordinance, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a planning and zoning quasi judicial hearing. Recommendation to City Council Land Development Code rezoning amendment for a specific site, the man caves at Sebastian. Applicant approved a proposed annexation. It reads, an amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map for property containing 4.56 acres located south and east of Spirit of Sebastian's PUD, west of Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of multiple family residential development. The existing county zoning is RM6, open paren, multiple family residential district, 6 units per acre, close paren, and the requested Sebastian zoning is CG, open paren, commercial general, close paren.
Okay, thank you. Has any member of the commission had any ex parte communication with the applicant?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Swearing in.
Will you please swear in?
You swear to affirm the testimony you're about to give during the September 15 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting is the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
Okay.
Witnesses are sworn in.
And the applicant can make his presentation?
Good evening, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning and Zoning Board. My name is Herb Green, CAD Jazz Engineering. We're here before you this evening to request a positive recommendation for a rezoning from the current zoning to CG and upon the voluntary annexation that we have requested. Brief summary of this is the genesis of this project was the desire to do kind of a modern day self-storage, man cave / self-storage units. And within the county, they have a county restriction of 2 acres maximum. So applicant requested that I review it. Having done man caves and self-storage and other projects, the best and most efficient size in terms of acreage is 4 acres. So this parcel fits right in that 4 acre zone so that we could do a nice project. So that's the genesis of the project. And as staff has noted earlier, we're surrounded by CG to the north, industrial, that whole corridor is becoming commercial. And thanks to staff's foresight, we communicated with Indian River County and understand our requirements for the right-of-way, and applicant has consented to the right-of-way improvements that's required along the frontage of the project. So with that, I'll sit down and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff findings and analysis, please.
Yes, thank you. As stated, this is a request for rezoning from County RM6, which is multiple family residential, 6 units per acre, to City CG. It is a 4.56 acre property located east and south of Spirit of Sebastian and west of the Old Dixie Highway and FEC right-of-way, and north of an existing county mobile home park. This property wants to develop, as has been stated, some storage sheds. I think he said she sheds? No, I got that wrong. I'm sorry. It's man caves. I had to say it. I'm so sorry. But anyways, the zoning is appropriate. Commercial general is appropriate for that use, but it is a conditional use under that zoning, and so they will have to meet specific criteria for approval when they come in with a site plan development. Again, they have given you a conceptual design, but that is not what's being approved. It is just the zoning. The design will have to come in modified. Again, they don't have the correct buffers on there or stormwater or any of the criteria that you know we require. Again, we feel that there's a changing condition occurring along that corridor, and so this is an appropriate change and appropriate use should this property be successful in being annexed into the city. I would suggest that certain conditions be placed possibly on this zoning recommendation should you choose to move forward, that we honor the Spirit of Sebastian's and the mobile home park to the south and make sure that the appropriate buffering and security fencing, if you will, measures be taken in the site plan process, as well as that the right-of-way dedication for the improvement of Old Dixie Highway be included also in the site plan approval process. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioners have questions?
I do. How big are these units going to be individually?
The typical man caves vary. Herb Green with CADJAS. The typical size of man cave she sheds vary. So it could range from 15 feet wide by 30, 40 feet deep, to 25 to 55. And what these units, and it's going to be a mix. It's going to be self-storage with some man caves. It'll be a self-storage component, and then the man caves component also. And the man caves are typically used for, they've been successful in Fort Myers, in the Ocala area, near the villages, and what they're successful in doing is attracting the work storage places for laymen, carpenters, plumbers, things like that of nature. They could put enclose their product or supplies inside of these units, and they have a little office space there so that they could go inside and work also. So it's been very successful, and some people use them for garages to park their fancy cars and boats, and some people either put there's a myriad of stuff, hobby stuff in there. So but the sizes range from the man cave she sheds. Sizes range from about 15 feet wide to 30 feet deep, 25 to 55.
Is that the reason why you need so much more additional land than what?
Yes, sir.
Is normal?
That is exactly what.
Will these be air conditioned as well and heated?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Just one other question. The understanding is the rental takes place on the property. You're not selling these, or they're going to be transported on and off the property?
Currently, it's up in the air. The ones that happened in Fort Myers, they actually condoed them. So people with boats, they store their boats in there. They actually own that unit. But it depends on the local codes and things like that we'll have to tackle. And staff is absolutely right. The conceptual plan is just our conceptual plan to show you what may be layout, and I see conceptual plan going back and forth. When I was a consultant with Kimley Horner Associates, I kind of reviewed the Abacoa as well as a lot of other projects. And a little bit aside, we didn't have a conceptual plan. You can't have a conceptual plan for Abacoa while it was going on. All we did was have a town center location. That's it. It's tough to ask for a conceptual plan because you don't know what's going to go there. You just have the comp plan and the land development code. And staff's, I did my first project in Sebastian about 10 years ago. In Sebastian, city staff, I tell you, it's refreshing. Your staff know what they're doing, and they know the code, and it works.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'll just say, I know the southern part of Old Dixie Highway is a tough road. And I thought you're transporting something that large on a trailer to get to the site.
The trips are, the beauty of it is they go there once a month.
Yeah.
Or sometimes some tenants or owners show up once a year.
Yeah, no, I'm not thinking so much about the people who visit the facility. It's transporting such a large product to your property with the trains soon to be moving along every half hour, I think.
Well, I remember that came up during the city council commission meeting, and there was a concern of the load on the street. Remember, when engineers design a street, it's designed for tractor trailers.
Right, that's correct.
So anything less than 80,000 pounds on an axle is pretty simple as far as roadway is concerned.
Any other questions here?
No, we're just voting to change it to commercial, correct? That's it.
I just had a Quick question. So you've mentioned they're gonna be air conditioned. Are they gonna, do the man caves have like each water hookup, like that type of thing, or?
That depends.
And utilities?
Well, the good news is now we have water and sewer available,
Mhm.
whereas before we didn't. So it changes the opportunity, and that, we'll discuss that with staff in terms of the final site plan of how each unit will be, what the use demand.
But in general, your model, your man cave model.
Oh, yeah.
Like, are they?
Oh, yeah, they're built out.
Okay.
Oh, interior's built out. Some people do it like libraries and sitting areas, and it's just amazing.
Let's be clear, this is not living space.
No, it's not living space.
But it might be a good place for that ugly recliner and that huge TV set.
This is not
right?
Airbnb and vacation rentals. Let's make that very clear, Mr. Green.
That's great.
No overnights.
That is not allowed in this zoning.
Got it.
And the applicant understands even for the self-storage, it's a conditional use process, and we'll adhere to the land development code requirements for conditional use for a self-storage facility.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who wants to speak in favor of this? Anyone here who wants to speak against it? Anybody on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
Thank you. I think that we've already responded to all the issues. Staff? Summarize? No?
Nothing, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Deliberation here? All deliberated, no more questions? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval.
Looking for a
Okay,
second.
I'll second it, but I want to add the conditions that Lisa asked us to put in there, the Spirit of Sebastian's request for additional buffering and the right-of-way request for the widening of Old Dixie for future use. You agree with that? Okay.
And the possible safety features for, the mobile home park to the south and Spirit of Sebastian, but, possible fencing.
I'm sorry?
Possible fencing as security measures for those two adjacent residential
Okay,
areas.
Doesn't that fall under the buffer issue?
It can.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call?
Yes. Ms. Battles?
Yes.
Mr. Lucier?
Stephen?
Yes.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Kinchin?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Yes.
It is 7-0 in favor. The motion passes.
Okay, no unfinished business? No new business? We're adjourned.